Street talk time. Oh, Gemma. Oh, this week's Coronation Street. So exciting, wasn't it? Wasn't that the best week of Coronation Street?
Oh.
No, it was not. It was not the best week of Coronation Street. It was pretty dull. In fact, and if you were on the Facebook, you've already seen this joke, but I want to do it anyway. I found a perfect clip from this week's Corrie that perfectly encapsulates what went on this week. Take it away, David and Paul.
What happened? Nothing.
Yeah, there we go. Nothing happened this week at all, did it? It was pretty dull. But I'm sure we can find some fun in it. Maybe. We'll do what we can.
They had to have known when they put that in the script and like filmed it that somebody was going to use it to take the mick out of the show.
No, I'm sure then. No, I don't know. Oh gosh, this year. It feels like this year is just not turning out to be much of a vintage Corrie yet. Is it time for Ian McLeod to move on? I mean,
That's rude.
He's been in the producer seat for quite a while now. Him and Verity taking over the shop. I don't know. It's like, apart from a couple of weeks worth of awesome Sebness and yes, a bit of the Tyrone and Fizz story as well, I just feel like it's been moan after moan, and I worry that it wears thin on our podcast list.
Stop slagging it off.
There must be some people going, if you hate it so much, why are you doing a podcast about it? We don't hate it really.
I'm forced to do it.
We don't hate it really. It just sometimes isn't as good as other weeks or months. We'll see, maybe it's better next week. I don't know. There's going to be a naked calendar shoot next week, Gemma, so I'm sure you'll love it.
Yeah.
What are we talking about
this
this week? What are we talking about this week? The Todd storyline. I was going to call it Nice Little Earner after my great pun that I did on the internet the other day.
Pearce like that.
Gareth Pearce like my Nice Little Earner pun, where he puts his money in the urn. But instead, I'm calling this Pump Action. Because this is the pump action story of the week. How many times did we hit? I'm still not sure what a heat pump is.
Right, I think a heat pump is a new way of heating your house.
Deaconry.
And it takes ambient air and heats it up, but I think it can also do the opposite.
Well, we don't really need anything to heat us up at this time of year, because it did seem quite urgent that they were putting it in.
This is what
right
I did
now.
I guess though that if they're building, they need to have all the bits. I mean,
got to be ready for
if you were building a house,
cold winter nights,
and the guy was like, "Look, you got to have radiators in here, but I can't be bothered to put him in because it's July. I'll come back and do it in December." You'd be like, "No, can you finish the house off before you go?"
I'm only going to fit the cold taps to your sinks now, alright?
Yeah,
I'll be back in 6 months with the hot ones.
Sounds very reasonable.
Okay, so
what a good way of building a house. I'll do the insulation in September.
The pump action story is first, and there was no pump action in the George and Eileen part of that story, but I'm sure it's going to be coming. We kind of merged that in as well. After that, we've got the On Daisy's Chain story. Which, and then we have the naked calendar. It seems like it just seems to be the imbeciles of the street seem to be
James Bailey
seem to be being unwittingly roped into doing this calendar that none of them actually want to do, but because Curtis and Emma are such devious masterminds of charity
and so charismatic and manipulative,
yes,
that they can't even get a shag out of each other, even though they're both gagging for it.
Gagging for a shagging.
Yeah.
I'm calling this storyline the Fool Monty, because they're all a bunch of fools that are being fooled into taking their clothes off. Save your praise. No, actually, that was best I've got this week. Paper staper. Because you know,
like a caper.
Stapes papes.
No, hang on, stop, calm down.
Stapes paper caper.
There you go.
Yes, that's the Fizz storyline title for this week. Thank you for that.
Couldn't speak.
And then also for some reason Nick had a few scenes this week. He got excited about Sam coming round, and then he didn't.
Every child's favourite small kitchen appliance.
Juicer.
Thanks, Dad.
What can I call me smoothies in this? Gemma, would you like to do some pump action?
Hang on,
it takes me back to our wedding night.
I've just got to pause the recording then.
Would you like to do the pump action, or would you like me to?
It's more traditional if you do it.
Fine. Buckle yourself in. So,
this is the best it's going to get tonight.
It is.
Isn't it?
You
That's what
turn
she
it
said.
off from here. Switch over to the news section, please. Right. So Sean has managed to persuade Eileen to let him back into number 11. Nothing else happens with that, so you can now forget all about it. A bin man comes over to the funeral parlour. And apparently the local big issue seller has died, and all the bin men want to have done a whip round to pay for his funeral because he was such a nice chap. And how much do you think you would be able to collect from just a bunch of bin men at probably short notice? I don't know how long ago it is that this chap's died.
I mean, perhaps he was looking a bit peaky last week, and they
£7,000. £7,000 for a bin man's funeral.
Still not enough.
A bin man's funeral. It's not. The bin men are paying for the funeral, isn't it? It's a big issue seller's funeral, a noble profession. But I don't know.
Which one is the noble profession?
It seemed odd. They are. I mean, Coronation Street has got a fine heritage of bin man. Eddie Yates, Curly Watts, Chalky Whiteley.
I think we spoke about the fact that what are they called?
Refuse collectors.
Environmental or upkeep supervisors. I think we spoke about the fact that they get paid pretty well.
Yes,
previously,
it's not a particularly nice job to do.
It's not a very nice job, but £7,000 in your back pocket for your favourite big issue seller's funeral. Sign me up.
Well,
for it.
It's not 96 grand, which is what Steve's managed to somehow accumulate by doing a bit of cycling.
I want to talk about this now because this is nonsense and madness, isn't it? £96,000, okay, that he's managed to raise, yet somehow he's done it without bothering his friends and neighbours because Dev was like, oh, he's raising money. He didn't even know about it. How did he get this amount of money? And also, why at this stage is he like, yeah, I can't possibly raise the rest. Where would I get it from?
He's just decided enough's enough, isn't it? Or did somebody tell him he was overdoing it or something?
No, Curtis was very suspicious.
No, before this week.
Curtis very suspiciously, I think, told him that he needed to round up to £100,000.
Yes, he did this week, but before this week, Steve had been told that he's all charitied out. I mean, we've not seen any of his fundraising. We saw him dress up as a dinosaur one week, did we? We've heard him talk, a lot about it. He's been walking, he's been cycling.
I can talk the big talk, but...
And he's not making it up, because he's got £96,000 about it, and he's obviously not been embezzling it, as Kathy suggested he has, exactly. Anyway, £7,000 for the bin, not the bin, from the bin man.
9,000...
Pretty good.
9,000, £96,000, £7,000... £6,000. Like, there will be lots of inexplicably large amounts of money.
Think of all the heat pumps that Steve could buy with that money. You can't bring Ollie back to life, but you can heat so many houses with that.
Yeah? With ambient air.
Yeah. That's like 20 houses worth of heat pumpery. It's awesome. Anyway, Todd likes the sound of this money. He looks a little bit tempted. Meanwhile, Sean and George are celebrating the news that Sean's moving back in again, and also Sean's got his factory back, so it's all coming up roses for Sean this week. Meanwhile, Todd is chatting with this bin man and building the full package for homeless guy. He's like gives him the tip-top creme de la creme, as Eileen would call it, of funeral packages for him. But as soon as the bin man leaves, Todd takes the cash over to the tin, the petty cash tin or whatever it is, but stashes most of it away in the urn. The sneaky so-and-so. What's he going to do with that then? George comes back later and sees that Todd is feeling rather guilty, and Todd says, George, I done screwed up. I'm just so nice, you see. This bin man came round and told me a story about how awesome the local big issue seller was, and I gave him a quote. I said that he could have the best funeral that we do, but he's only got 10 grand, so what are we going to do?
£7,000.
So two grand. He's only got 2 grand. It costs 7 grand. What are we going to... don't worry, I'll pay for it. And George says, no, you are nice, Todd. You're such a kind-hearted soul. I will pay this £5,000 from my wages.
Because that's what my dad would have done. Can I
It's
just
got
say
a bit ridiculous now.
that they should probably cut out the profit margins from that? Because I bet it doesn't cost them exactly £7,000, does it?
Probably not. I don't get how Archie... what's his name? Not Archie. Yeah, Archie Shuttleworth managed to keep this business afloat if this was his kind of business method, and we've seen before that Todd had tried to modern things up a little bit and try and scam the customers, or whatever you call them, the bereaved, and George is like, no, we're the nice funeral people. But come on, paying £5,000 out your back pocket just because of what Todd has said is a mistake. This business deserves to be deader than the stiffs that they're carting through there each week. Honestly, that was silly. And if I was Eileen and George has given me this naff dinner in my backyard, and I know he's just spent £5,000, he could have taken her up to the Ivy or something with that.
Well, he could have gone
just
on
frittered it away.
5 holidays of a lifetime with Summer and Todd, according to Billy.
Yeah, I know. Ridiculous. But anyway, let's move swiftly on from that one.
This is the
Doesn't
trouble
really make
with
sense.
Coronation Street at the moment, is that both small and large amounts of it are nonsensical, really.
Yeah.
Like some of the entire plots don't make sense, and then other parts, like really small nitty bitty bits, don't make sense. Like
we have to just not analyse it in detail. I will do our best.
Oh,
So,
right, okay. Not analyse it in detail. So
Todd phones up Will and says, I've got
what am I
your
doing
money.
here, then?
I got your money.
Yes.
But then later he notices the urn's gone missing.
I can't believe I put it in an urn and now the urn is gone, and in a shop that sells urns, and that urn was on display.
So he does a little bit of urn raiding, as if to say, did I maybe put it in this urn, or was it in this urn? No, it was definitely urn that's gone missing.
Are you trying to say all urns look the same?
Well, these ones
fascist?
didn't. I mean...
No, they didn't.
I don't know. So Todd goes and convinces George that he's given the guy the wrong urn.
And this is the thing, right? Okay, can I just say this? George is so convinced that Archie's legacy is paying for funerals out of your own money, but he's also very laissez-faire about the fact that it's fine to give somebody the wrong ashes and they shouldn't go and tell them that you've accidentally swapped it over.
Oh, well, that's a comedy paper, isn't it?
They might get upset about
That's
it.
hijinks, that is. So what happens? So Todd says to George, you've given the gangster, the local gangster, which there seems to be an increasing number of in Coronation Street now that Sharon's left, the ashes that actually contain... No, the urn that contains the ashes of a little old lady's Shetland pony. Because we do funerals for them now, apparently, and vice versa. And this old woman wants to have the Shetland pony's ashes turned into a nice little bangle, and she's going to be having Tony Soprano around her neck if we don't get this mess that I've got myself into sorted.
I'll worry.
Deal with it, says Todd. And so then Don Wethiosa comes back round later, and he's given the urn back, and Todd has a look inside to find his money, and then the Don's like, I know what you wanted. They found some money inside here. He didn't say it, but he gives him the look as if to say that. I'm going to go and have a nice little knees up in the deceased's honour this evening. Hooray for me. So he's lost that £5,000. Bad luck, Todd. What's he going to do when he's got a 13-year-old menacing him from the Ginnell every week? Speaking of which, Will comes into the bistro later with Summer, his new Bezzy mate, and Billy. Billy says, Todd, be nice to Will. So this is when we learn about the heat pump. It's an environmentally friendly heat pump worth £7,000 or something thereabouts for the Archdeaconry. And this gets the cogs whirring in Todd's head. Meanwhile, George and Eileen are in the pub, and she knows about his and Sean's scheme. I can't really remember how she found out about it, but it doesn't matter. She says, I will not be manipulated or emotionally blackmailed by you, George. And he kind of gets edged backwards by the sheer force of her rage until he trips over on a bar stool and breaks his wrist on the pub floor. Oh no! Will, at the end of the episode, goes to Todd and demands his money, and says, well, if you need to nick a heat pump in order to fund me, then have at it.
So there was nothing else that you could steal? Like the heat pump?
Well, it was a very convenient heat pump. Wasn't it? It was quite lucky for him.
Is this being sponsored by Big Heat Pump?
No, because I wouldn't want my
Question.
product to seem easily nickable. Although maybe it makes it look like it's highly in demand and that's what they want.
Yeah.
So.
Can you get a heat pump from Argos? Is this product placement?
Oh yeah, maybe that's going to be the next ident.
Oh, I wouldn't fancy stealing this out of the builder's yard.
Argos sponsors Coronation Street. Wednesday, Todd's on the phone to a mate who's got a van and he wants to borrow it next week for his heat pump stealing shenanigans.
Next week, mate. No, you need to get your skates on. These heat pumps are going fast.
I know. They're sounding like heat pumps, hotcakes, something like that.
No.
Summer gets a call from Will about meeting up later, and Todd goes, that Will's a wrong one. Eileen comes to see George, who's got a plaster cast on his arm, and she says, I will help you out. Anything that you need me to do in this funeral parlour, I'm your woman. I'm sorry about backing you over and everything. It's all my fault. What can I do for you?
Backing you over?
You want a cup of tea or something? And he says, well, it'd be quite nice, but what I'd really like is for you to come and help me lug a corpse out of the hospital. Mrs. Middleton. Eileen doesn't want to, but after this overdramatic bereaved son comes round, who was made quite an impression, but I wouldn't mind if we never see him again, which I assume we won't. He comes in and does a bit of the old heartstring tugging. Eileen has no choice but to jump into the car with George and go the van, and go and find this stiff. In the shop later, Paul realises that his rent hasn't gone out of his account and his wages haven't been paid. What's going on there, Ed? Ed says, oh yeah, sorry, it's going to be late this month. That's the builder's trade for you. You can't ever tell when you're going to get paid. And Paul says, well, I'm not going to do any work for you until I get paid. I mean, we're halfway through the week yet. Will comes in, intimidating Todd one more time. And Todd says, can you help me nick the heat pump next week, please? Because it's quite big and I'm just a little lad. And
heat pump.
And you're a bit of a rake, but maybe between us we can get it in the van together. And Will says he will, but for an extra £500, which they shake on. And I didn't notice this at the time. It was pointed out to me afterwards that they had a little bit of touchy-touchy, handy-handy.
And of course, this was essential for the scene. It
was. They had to have holdy handy, but we only got to see the holdy handies. So was that Will hand and his dad? Was it stunt hand? Was it Peter Ash and his mum, dad, or something? I don't know. Who knows? But very important shaky holdy handies. So
maybe it was him and his own hand.
Oh yeah, he did it himself.
They could just kind of put his hands in front of the camera.
Why
and he was
not?
standing behind the camera and he shook his own hand.
Could be something like that. So Todd goes over to the yard later to kind of scope out where he's going to be nicking this heat pump from, and he hears that it's going to be going fast. It's going in this afternoon or something, isn't it? Terrible. So he realises as well at the same time that his ring has gone. That little scoundrel Will has only half-inched it when he did the shaky handy-holdy thing. What a street urchin he is. So he goes to find Will again later and says, can I have my ring back, please? And Will says, no, I'm keeping it as extra insurance, actually, and you can have it back when I've got my money that you owe me for all the blackmailery that I'm doing. Todd says, look, we need to go to the yard now and take this heat pump. Take a drink every time they say heat pump this week. Will says, no, I'm not helping you out with that. It's daytime. People will see me. What he doesn't say is, I'm sure there must be some kind of CCTV around there, because there usually is when there's nicking going on, but luckily for Todd, so far, it appears there hasn't been any.
The amount of times that people have been stealing things, falling off of, kidnapped and held inside that builder's yard, you would think that it would be sort of, a requirement of the insurance that it has to be monitored at all times.
I'm pretty sure there has been CCTV there at some point, but it's always on the brink when you want it, don't you? Never mind. George and Eileen have come back from the hospital. They've gone out in his van. They're back. They got Mrs. Middleton in the back, but Eileen's desperate for a waz, so she goes inside with George following after her, and they have a little bit of spot of lunch together. Todd sees the van and goes, I could put a heat pump inside
spare
that.
Van. I'll just move the van and I'll put a tiny red car here.
What the hell was that all about? That was like one of those little early learning centre cars, wasn't it? The one that that I said that I was obsessed with when I was a little boy.
Nobody will remark upon this strange.
I was waiting for a troop of clowns to come out of that, but it turns out they're all acting the scenes this week.
I thought they were writing it.
That's what I probably should have said.
Next scene is Todd driving away with a tiny car with a massive heat
George
pump.
should have just walked past the car, and then a bit of paper flaps out saying, "It's next episode's script, Tony." So
this is bitchy.
Oh, it's just naff this week, wasn't it? Sorry. How is Todd going to get inside the builder's yard, though, in order to acquire this heat pump?
What a dilemma.
Yeah, he's going to phone up Ed and... barely disguise his voice. I mean, it sounded exactly like Todd, didn't it?
Literally sounded like Todd going, I've got a plumbing emergency. And for some reason, Ed saying, yeah, plumbing emergency. I'm a builder. I can do that.
I have it on good authority that this particular incarnation of Todd is quite good at Welsh accents. So I don't know why he didn't do that.
That would have been genius and hilarious.
Yes, Gareth with his actual voice. No, anyway, it's enough to fool
I haven't
Ed.
ever heard his actual voice.
I don't know whether I have either, actually. I'm assuming
You're
got a
assuming
Welsh
he's got.
accent.
He might not.
I think he has. But I might be wrong, so don't tell me if I'm
Well,
wrong.
hang on a minute.
What?
Whatever accent he has is a Welsh accent because he's Welsh.
Yes, very, very true. Okay, so Ed's bogs off in his own little yellow van. Is it yellow? I don't know. So that Todd can get in there, and luckily for him, he doesn't even need to use his
Bolt cutters.
bolt cutters, exactly, because Ed's only gone and left the chain unchained.
He's only blown the bloody doors off.
So he goes inside and does a bit of sneaking, but then Ed comes back because he's realised that he hasn't locked up the chain. And
Do you know what? This sounds to me, right? The way you're saying this, and you're reading off a bit of paper, but it sounds to me, you know, like when you're round a campfire and somebody's making a story up, and they just won't
Just
shut
making-
up,
just making
and
it
they just
up.
keep complicating it and making it really boring and convoluted.
I think this is how the Corrie writers did it this week. They just did a bit of
just
improv
got
around the
drunk.
campfire. So yeah, Todd's hiding around.
Todd's hiding behind the heat pump,
Yes, Ed
and he's got his bolt cutters.
Ed is ready to lock up, but Todd makes a bit of a noise with
He
his
goes,
bolt cutters.
"No."
Oh, he makes a really loud gulping sound,
Gulp?
does he? And Ed goes, "Oh, what's that in there? Then?
Oh,
Is
it's a
anybody
ghost."
there? Is it you, Paul?"
Honestly, if that place isn't haunted, ghosts aren't real.
It's haunted by Pat. Anyway, somehow Ed doesn't find Todd. He doesn't really give a very good look around the place, does he? Because he was literally just there. But anyway, he goes and obviously, what do you know, he locks Todd inside. How's he going to escape? Oh yes, he's got a pair of bolt cutters. Meanwhile, George and Eileen have had their lunch at that point. Yes, they've had a nice buffet in the yard, and this is when he asks her out for a date, and she's going to think about it. But that's all done. They go outside, and after a surprisingly long amount of time, George realises that the van's gone and this little red car is in its place. So what's happened to Mrs. Middleton? He realises that Todd's got the key, so maybe he's taken the van. George gets in a grunt with Eileen for luring him inside with a promise of tasty buffet. And then Todd, meanwhile, I'm trying to make this interesting, but it's really not. Todd is taking the heat pump and he goes inside the van. "Whoa, Nelly," says Todd. "There's a dead woman inside this van. I
Who
better
would
pay
have
my
guessed?
respects." And
I
he does
can't
a
believe
little...
there's a corpse in the corpse van.
I know, who'd have
This
thought?
almost never happens.
And he does this little bowing his head, cross
I
myself thing, which
thought-
was weird.
I thought this was funny. I actually thought that was kind of funny.
I didn't.
The thing everybody has to remember here is that all the actors commit themselves to these jokes, even if they're not convinced themselves. And not that I'm trying to say that anything about, I don't know what Gareth Pierce thought about any of this, because I thought it was funny myself, but they throw themselves into these somewhat lackluster scenarios with as much gusto as they do everything else. So you can't, you can't fault them. And also,
He did what
on the
his
front
script
of
told him to do.
on the front of writing scripts and storylining and everything, we criticise all the time, but we've never done it. It must be difficult. I'm sure everyone's burned out.
I've also
It's
not
stressful.
been paid for it.
True.
Anyway, or rewarded for it. Anyway, he sticks the pump in the van anyway and drives off of it. With it, sorry. George and Eileen get to the yard just too late because they hear the van driving off, don't they? Maybe, or they hear a van, or the van. George is tying up a shoelace or something. But then they get around the corner and it's gone. And what do you say when you realise that your van has been half-inched? You say, "Blast!" No sign of it, says George. So close.
Blast and dagnammit.
As does Ed, probably, when he comes back later and finds that his chain has been cut and his heat pump vanished.
Oh no.
Dear.
He's like going, how does
Matters are
anybody...
made even worse later. What?
He's like, how do people even know what a heat pump is what he's saying. Why would anyone steal this? Nobody knows what these things are.
George and Eileen find that Mr. Middleton, the over-dramatic and not at all camp son, is there waiting to see his mum later. I just want to see her body one more time.
Now, if you're not from the UK, you might not have ever had the pleasure of Harry Hill's TV Burp, watching Harry Hill's TV Burp, which was a hilarious compilation clip show hosted by comedian and large lapel owner, collar owner, Harry Hill. And he used to make fun of TV shows. I guess it was like a one-man Gogglebox.
Yes.
But he had 2 segments that stick in our minds. One was TV Burp's Poetry Corner, when somebody does a rhyme by accident and then they sing this stupid jingle, and it's hilarious. And the other one is
TV Burp Stars of Tomorrow Today,
which is usually reserved for people who are hamming it up a little bit, and this guy would have definitely won.
Yeah, he was really chuffed to have got his part in Coronation.
He was not going to let his agent down.
No, he's heard that sometimes people come on for a 1 or 2 episode stint and then get invited back for a longer period, and by golly, he wanted that, did old Mr. Middleton. But anyway, he wants to see his mum before she gets stuck in the ground or burned to a crisp or whatever's going to happen to her. But Todd, but they can't because the van's not there. But it's okay because Todd comes back and he says, "Just need to get things sorted, Mr. Middleton. You go off to the cafe for a while, and then you can see your mum's corpse later." And George gives him the evils because he knows he's been up to something. Todd says to George, "Look, I just had to give me mate a lift to the station." Not the tram station, presumably, because it's just
right
over there.
And he also couldn't get on the tram to get to the station.
Yeah.
Don't ask any more questions, George. That's what Todd says.
I didn't realise there was a body in the van. How embarrassing. Again, Todd, I would have thought you might have thought to have had a look if there was a corpse in the corpse van.
George has...
I didn't know there was any ice cream in this ice cream truck when I stole it.
I wouldn't have taken it. George really has fired Todd on other occasions for less than what he's got up to this week, just so far.
I know.
You know, swapping urns over, charging people £2,000 for top-of-the-line funeral, and stealing a corpse with a van surrounding it. And he doesn't even know the half of what Todd's actually been up to. Literally stealing money from George, $5,000. Although, to be fair, like I said before, you can take the mark off of that, can't you, George? Let's not pretend here that it really costs you $7,000. And what was the other thing? Stealing a heat pump. Heat pump. Are you keeping count at home? Heat pump.
Later on, because of the severity of this crime, Weatherfield police have to put their top officer on the case. Soon to be detective, but still comfortable.
He's still kicking about, isn't he?
Officer Craigie. He comes round.
Dispatch Officer Tinker.
Tinks, he gets called later, doesn't he, by David and Paul, who are just in on the joke as we are about how hilarious it is that Craig's been a policeman on the street for a couple of years now, and
all the crime's still going on.
Yeah, well, that's not a surprise, actually. If Craig had been a policeman and the crime had stopped, then I'd be suspicious. Anyway, he's taken down the details about this theft from Ed, who realises, hang on a minute, maybe it was Paul what did it. Because everything's going wrong for Paul at the moment, and the audience needs to feel a bit more sympathy for him. So Todd, then he has another superfluous scene with Will in Villain's Alley for just more threatening.
They really like that. They did that several times. I thought today's one was pretty good, though.
Which one? Oh, we'll get to it. You tell me when we get there. There were a lot of scenes with Will saying, "Give me my money," and Todd says, "Oh, you're so evil, Will. If I give you your money, will you leave me alone, please?"
Yeah, Todd's like, "Oh gosh, I would try to outsmart you, but you've got me over a barrel here, young child."
Well, you know what they say about Will. He does make exceedingly good threats.
Reference.
So anyway, then Tinks goes into the Rovers to have a chat with Paul, who's 3 sheets to the wind after having nothing else to do all day, so he just goes and gets legless on the red wreck.
Hey, listen, the pandemic is far from over, so that means to me, day drinking is still on the menu.
You got a couple more days of day drinking and we're back to normal on the 19th.
What?
So, George and Eileen have yet another argument towards the end of the
You know what this
about
means?
What?
They're made for each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like
we
in
know
school,
Coronation Street.
When the children have an argument and the boy pushes the girl over, and then to console her, the mother says, that means he really likes you. And then the child goes, Mummy, I think you have some internalised misogyny you need to deal with.
Every single couple on Coronation Street, they can't get together without either having a falling out or a slanging match in the street first, or one of them inadvertently insulting, the mother of the other one. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's how we spent most of our courting days, wasn't it, darling?
Anyway, Eileen says, I had a narrow escape because I almost said yes to you asking me out on a date earlier. I hate you, I'll never date you. And George says, I never should have got involved in you ever, Eileen. So Billy and Paul, at the end of the episode, Billy and Todd watch on as Paul is led into a police car, which, just for dramatic effect, drives away with sirens blaring, because maybe they're going to pick up another crim on the way or something.
Yeah, don't sit in the middle. We've got to pick up a shoplifter.
I reckon it's that Don Wediosa from earlier. Friday, today, what happened? That's just the name that I made up for him, by the way. I'm quite proud of that one. Don Wediosa.
Oh, okay.
The mafia boss of Weatherfield.
Do you know Furiosa from Mad Max?
I did not know that.
No, I didn't think you did. Right,
Gemma tried to make me watch Mad Max a couple of months ago. I didn't enjoy it.
It won Oscars.
I did not follow it.
It literally, there's no plot to it. They're literally driving in a straight line for most of the film. Oh my
Friday,
God.
then.
And you're sitting here casting your criticisms over this show, which, is intricately plotted. Whether or not you think it's a good plot is irrelevant. This has got a lot of moving parts in it. Scores of characters, guest stars, and you can't follow the plot of Mad Max, and you think you can judge
lots of films.
Coronation Street. How do you know what's going on in this show?
I know who all the characters are. That really helps.
Really, in Mad Max, there was Mad Max, and there was Furiosa, and there were other people.
I don't get films. Friday. Todd realises that Will stayed overnight on the sofa.
Saucy.
A bit like Ryan. And because he's mates with Summer or something. And Summer reminds the audience. There was a bit of audience reminding going on just for a bit of time filling in today's episode. Hey, everybody. Paul's been arrested. I wonder how he's getting on. And also, Todd says, hey, everybody, my ring's in the jeweller's, isn't it? Yes, that's where it is. It's definitely it's not with Will. So, over to the police station, and the foreman grilling commences. Paul says, thank you. Paul says that he was drinking alone on the Red Wreck when the... Paul says he was drinking alone on the Red Wreck when the pump got pilched. Gemma says...
Heat pump.
So the pump gets pinched.
Yeah.
And he was getting wrecked on the wreck.
Sounds like a great afternoon.
And then so he says his piece, and Gemma collects Paul from the station, and he says, I'm innocent, Gemma, I swear to you, and I'm going to find out who stitched me up. Who could it possibly be? There's only about 4 people in my storyline, and I know it's one of them, so I'm going to solve this by the end of the episode.
I also like the way that policeman during this interrogation was like, listen, mate, I didn't even know what a heat pump was until this scene.
That policeman was
the star
obnoxious, wasn't he?
He was. I thought he was good.
He was a
policeman.
Yeah, he was purposefully riling him up, wasn't he? He was.
Well, that's a
he
technique.
was a nasty policeman. He was
playing bad cop.
Yes.
And he's like, sorry, mate, I know I'm being a bit harsh on you, but good cop's not here at the moment.
I thought he was Scouse. I thought he was.
I can't do Scouse. Cop. It's just this is my generic.
Hey, Paul, it was you, wasn't it? Come on, it was you that pinched the heat pump, wasn't it? Just go on, admit it.
Heat pump.
The pump. Eileen goes to the cafe to apologise to George because he is always there, and it just turns into yet another argument between them.
Oh, so familiar. The heady days of courting.
So she goes, Sean says to George, you just need to get used to Eileen's sense of humour. She just insults you.
She came in and told a joke, didn't she? She came in and she said, what's the joke?
I don't remember. I can't remember.
She came in and she told him a joke and he didn't laugh, so she shouted at him, which is exactly how our relationship goes.
It really, really does. Sometimes Gemma makes a joke on the podcast and I don't laugh and I get right glaring.
Well, sometimes you make a joke and I don't immediately dissolve into tears and wet myself. You take that as like a rejection.
Grave insult.
Yeah.
So, Paul goes and has a go at Ed first because Paul's angry today.
Yeah, well,
he
Ed
says,
chopped him in.
You set the police on me. And Ed says, oh, sorry, I thought it was probably you. And then he says, and then he sees Will and has a go at him for a little bit as well. And Summer says, oh, the sun shines out of his arse. He's wonderful.
He steals cakes for his sister.
Yeah. And Paul, I don't know who you are anymore. Which is
Summer,
ironic.
Have you? Yeah. Right. Number one.
I've only just learned who she can get into a scene now, and I don't go, who's that? Oh yes, it's Summer.
She has not been paying any attention to Paul.
Why?
Paul this is not Paul being out of the ordinary. Paul always gets mad.
He is.
He gets drunk and then he shouts at people
I know.
for things that he's done.
This is his modus operandi. He's
that's his deal.
Permanently peed off.
Yeah, and someone's like, oh, I don't recognise. Like, okay, look, I know
He's
you're
an
new.
angry little man, is Paul.
He is.
It's just furious.
Yep.
He should be called Furioso. Why is that what it was called?
Yeah,
I remember
you remembered the word, right? You're saying that Paul looks a bit like Charlize Theron, the famously beautiful South African actress.
Yes. I thought Furioso wasn't there a big fat bad guy in Mad Max? That's not what I think.
Okay, right. I've wanted to do this for a while, where we watch a movie and you then tell me what the plot was and we record it as a podcast. I would love to hear you tell me about Fat Furiosa's epic battle against Mad Max and his girlfriend.
Mad Max, wasn't there?
Yes. Well done, you watched that bit.
Yeah. Anyway, so where
do you
are we
remember
at?
what they wanted?
No,
Do you remember what they were all after?
No. Water?
Yeah, you got well done.
Yeah.
You
okay.
did watch it then. It was basically they're driving in a straight line and then they got water at the end.
Good. So, Todd goes home and he starts rooting around in the flat for something, and he finds thingy's what's it, doesn't he? He finds his lighter.
Yes, his what's it.
Will's lighter, because he's a wrong un, so he must have a lighter. He doesn't even vape or anything. And then he phones up Craig wanting some advice. What was that all about?
I don't know.
I don't know what that was about.
No, because later on he says he's setting up the twist later that he tells Will about, where he has told Craig, I think, that he thinks that Will has stolen his ring.
Oh, yeah.
So he phones Craig up.
Okay, fine. George brings Eileen some flowers, but he gets intercepted by Mary, who tells him about the deeper meaning of the bunch of whatever they are that he's bought her. And she realises that he's got the hots for Eileen, so she invites him in to give him some
advice.
Love advice.
She moans at him for having hortensia or something.
Oh, well done.
And she says it means you're frigid. And then she tells him about the language of flowers, and then she still manages to give him a laurel stick instead of an olive branch. And she doesn't know what a cornflower looks like.
I was going to wonder if you were going to mention that.
But I wanted to say, do you know anything about the language of flowers?
No, I didn't know this is a thing.
I don't know. Oh yeah, I knew it was a thing. The only thing I ever remember...
Roses mean I love you.
Roses mean I'm going to pay a lot of money at Valentine's Day to shut you up. The only thing I remember is that red and white, you should never give them to people in hospital because they symbolise bloody bandages.
Oh, really?
Which is what my nan told me because I was trying to make a lovely bouquet.
What's the funeral flower? Carnations, isn't it?
Is it? I thought the carnations meant, sorry, I got this from the petrol station.
No, what's the... Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I got this from
Do you mean lilies?
No, I don't know.
I thought white lilies were...
I don't know. Anyway, David has a scene with Paul later. That was quite nice to see David in there. But then they start having a chat about Paul's woes, but then they get interrupted by Will phoning Paul to say, come and meet me in Victoria Gardens in half an hour. He's doing a bit more blackmailing in the Ginnel, and then he turns around and Todd's there saying, what are you playing at?
See, this was good because it was nicely framed. Todd was standing in the arch of the light with the darkness surrounding him, and he was, surprising that he was there, and it looked quite sinister.
A little bit sinister.
Gareth Peirce is pretty good at sort of that
Peirce.
kind of head tippy forward glaring.
He's better than Will. Will and Todd have got themselves into a bit of a stalemate situation here, haven't they? Because Todd says, I'm going to take your lighter and plant it at the builder's yard so it looked like you'd done it if you don't leave me alone or something. And
finally, Todd realises that he is the grown-up in this situation.
Yeah.
And he's had
many years of plotting
and like he's gone head-to-head with a bloody serial killer. And here's Will, like, menacing him.
Yeah.
And he's just been letting him run circles around him and just scraping up bundles of cash to throw at him. And they've spent, I tell you what, they've spent so many scenes negotiating with each other how much money the other one's got to give that one and where they're going to get it from. I don't even know how much money he owes him now because they've spent the whole... It's like watching a blimmin' one of these... what they called real estate programs where they're haggling over a house price.
Doesn't matter. So they go to the Victoria Gardens, don't they, for this meetup? Paul and Todd. No, yes.
Will
and Paul
tells Paul, come to the gardens,
yes,
and I'll reveal everything.
Yes, but
when he gets there, Will's revelation should have rocked Paul to the very core because it was a sharp psychological insight.
What is it? I'm lost in
He's
my
like,
notes where
the
we are.
revelation, Paul, is that you are the villain in your own life. And Paul was like, oh my God, you're right. You're your own worst enemy.
Paul wants to know if Will has had anyone put him up to this.
Well, yeah, it's obvious. I mean, honestly...
And Todd is lurking in the background, and if Paul turned round for just half a second, he might realise, but...
He's just standing there like... Oh, good job that Paul's thick and he won't turn around.
Anyway, Will says, no, it's nothing to do with Todd.
Why would you say that?
Yes. Also, stop pushing Summer away, because she's a good one, she is. Paul goes back to the cafe and has a sit with David, and this is where he says nothing's really been happening today, I think. He realises that he's been pushing everyone away and he needs to keep hold of Summer. And David says, that's nice. Anyway, do you want a job at the barber's? Fantastic. He's got a new job, everybody, this week. We haven't seen inside the barber's for donkey's years, have we?
No, I mean, it's a bit COVID-y, isn't it?
It is a little bit COVID-y in there at the moment, yes. So anyway, Paul's got a job if anyone was worrying about that.
No.
As has Sean, obviously. Eileen comes back.
So Paul is definitely fired now, he told...
Yeah, I fired him.
But can't they have gone, look, okay...
Didn't he resign? He said, I'm not working for you if I don't get paid.
Yeah, he said that, and then Ed called the police on him because he said he'd stolen the heat pump, and they were both in the wrong, weren't they? So is it not back to, oh, easy come, easy go, sorry about that, let's just both forgive each other?
I don't know. Eileen has another surprise meal in the yard of number 11, and George is there with an olive branch that's actually a privet twig, and they have a lovely old time. But well, she thinks that he's going to...
He says, Eileen, what a great romantic meal we're having. But don't forget, we're not dating each other. We're just friends. By the way, that reminds me, I have an important question to ask you.
Oh, yes. Can you come and work at the Undertaker's for me?
And Eileen goes, oh, gosh, my heart was aflutter.
Eileen goes... Yeah, I don't know whether I've got a job at the moment, actually. Have I got a job?
She's got jobs all over the place because she says, I'm going to have to sort my shifts out.
Is she working at streetcars still, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, hurrah for that. More new jobs. Employment all over the place this week. Later on, or is it earlier? It doesn't matter. Around that time, we find out that Todd has sold his heat pump somehow. He's snapped it off of his hands. Heat
pump.
Yes. But he hasn't been able to get the full $5,000 for it, so he's able to give Will 4.
But wait a minute.
Will's got a plan. He's got a phone. He sticks when somebody very handily rings up Todd to distract him. Will sets up his video phone thingy, and he records the conversation where Todd basically
outlines the whole dastardly
dastardly scheme that he has come up with for the past 3 months. He is able to summarise in the space of about 30 seconds.
If only we had been so lucky.
Yeah.
Will says, Todd, you've outsmarted me, but I can't remember exactly what you did, so can you just tell me again?
Basically, it was
and that. And then, at the end of it, Todd says, right, this is what I done, and I don't even care. By the way, always have an insurance plan. And he gives him back the lighter, and Will's like, thank you very much. takes his insurance plan and puts it in his pocket.
Well, there is another very handy distracting phone call, isn't there? Just to bookend this, there are two phone calls, just so that Todd would be distracted.
Todd goes, hello, Archie Shuttleworth. No, who is it? George, hello, Shuttleworth Funeral Parlour. Sorry for your loss, move on. How can I help you?
So, Will Scarpers.
And then he watches the video and he's framed it very artfully. He's like watching one of those undercover journalist videos of Fergie selling the royal family for 10
this was
grand.
The final scene of the episode, wasn't it? Final scene of the episode.
Yeah.
Which is, sometimes reserved for massive cliffhangers or
revelations
or
of some
something.
sort.
No, it's just a reminder of something that happened literally 3 minutes ago, just in case we've forgotten then. It's Will sitting on the bench playing his video to himself going, wahaha, I recorded him. Did you notice that, audience?
Will
you definitely know now.
Oh God, I just wonder if I flipped the camera by accident.
Well, Gemma, I'll tell you what, I hope that Monday's episode starts off with Will looking at this video because I might forget by then. Yeah.
But you've also forgotten to put on the scene where...
Oh yes, the bishop is mad at Billy, isn't he? Because he really wants a heat pump right now. And... Pump me, Archdeacon.
No.
Todd tries to cheer him up by saying, I've got £1,000. I've been saving up my wages and I've got £1,000.
I reminded Michael of this.
Yes, he did actually sell the heat pump for £5,000.
And he stole £1,000.
He skimmed off 1,000 of it before he gave
for a
the
holiday of
to
a
Will.
lifetime.
Well, they're going to have a nice honeymoon with Summer, aren't they?
And Summer says, oh God, as long as I'm not in a bedroom next to yours, I'll be fine. And everyone around the country surely was like, oh, jeez, really? Oh,
I know, it's a bit grim, isn't it?
Listen,
I think that they already have bedrooms next to each other. We're trying to work out the layout of this flat because we were watching a 2000 episode on the DVDs yesterday, weren't we? When they had who was it that was living there at that time? Oh,
Kevin.
It was Kevin, wasn't it? It was
there's a whole nursery across opposite the front door.
Where the fourth wall is, always in Billy's flat. There's 2 other rooms there, just opposite the sofa.
Yep.
That you'd never know exist anymore. So I really, really hope that one of them does.
She should go in that room. Yeah. Yeah, it's just gross to... I mean, I know they're not related to her in any way at all, but they still are her. Even just thinking about anyone at that age doing it is gross, isn't it? And she's like,
our age.
Oh, no, at Summer's age.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't mean they're too old for it. Right, so him saying he's got £1,000, they're going to go on a holiday of a lifetime. Now, what, for 3 people, how long are you going for? A day? And number 2, I was like, I got really mad about this because Billy was like, what? You've saved £1,000? Like it was a complete impossibility for him to even imagine such an incredible amount of money. So I got mad and I went online to find out how much does an archdeacon actually get. It's a lot less than I thought it was, but it's still, Billy should be sitting on some honeymoon fund of his own, is all I'm saying. He's on about 36.
The wedding's not free.
True, but he's got 36,000. He gets 36 grand a year as an archdeacon.
Okay.
Which is, I can't remember, 1,900 or something pounds a month after taxes, I think. How much money do you think that flat's really going for?
Can't be much.
No, it's about 600.
Even if it does have a couple of extra mystery rooms.
A 2-bedroom...
When you get the flat valued, it's like, no, this is only a 1-bedroom flat.
No, what, rent?
Just don't look where the camera is.
4-bedroom flat, rent for that? No way. A 2-bedroom flat in Salford is about 600, 700 quid a month. What's he spending his money on?
I don't know.
Oh, he's probably pitching in for people's funerals.
Quite possibly. Okay, so what made...
No, I need to bring this up. This is really nitpicky. I wasn't even going to mention it because I was thinking about it earlier and going, oh, he cares about this is kind of stupid. But Coronation Street really can never seem to get money right. I remember there was a time when they would never mention amounts of money. They would write things on bits of paper and push... Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And they never really talk about specific amounts of money. And I never understood why. But now I get it. Feels like they just can't ever have a realistic number for anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. Anyway.
Like, vast amounts of money drop on people's laps. Somebody can raise £96,000 by doing a charity bicycle race where he crashes into Curtis. So, I mean, Curtis is like, I can raise £4,000 with a bunch of naked men. with a calendar. £4,000 for that. Heat pump, £5,000, £6,000. Put it on Gumtree. Stick £1,000 in an urn.
Maybe Billy's just gonna, or the bishop or whatever is gonna auction off the heat pump to top up Steve's charity fund.
I need that heat pump for the auction.
Why was this story so
Heat
pants this
pump.
week? What was wrong with it?
I don't know.
Because there was something, wasn't there?
It felt a bit lacklustre, and I can't really put my finger on.
I think that Will being the villain of the piece is
Will running rings around
doesn't work
Weatherfield's finest Machiavellian prince was ridiculous. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how old is he? I don't know how old this boy is in real life, but he looks like middle-aged teenager, doesn't he? Like 15.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't find him particularly intimidating.
George was being an arsehole to Eileen.
George really was, and I really, really, really want to like George, but he just gets really angry, doesn't he? Like Paul, his default reaction to anything is to screw his face up and go, "Oh, I should have never got involved with you."
But the thing is, right? We're supposed to find it endearing and funny when George does it, but I don't, because I don't know who he is really.
Yeah.
And he hasn't won me over. And I think there's probably a contingent of people who watched him in Benidorm who perhaps find this a bit more likeable, because I think maybe they're banking on the sort of affection that some viewers already have for the actor. And I'm sure that if you're somebody who's watched Benidorm, let me know if you have. You might find these antics a bit more palatable. But for me, you're just this grumpy old man getting angry with a grumpy old lady, and we're supposed to be rooting for them to like get together and, I don't know what, bash each other with saucepans.
I do get how, I mean, some of the scrapes that Todd gets into might make George angry, but it just doesn't make entertaining
sense.
Television.
It
just to
doesn't-
see him getting cross all the time.
And it also doesn't make sense why he keeps
Doesn't make
going,
him
I'll
likeable.
just hire you. Like, if we had... This is the thing. To me, it feels like George and Eileen should have already been going out with each other. And then George then sees Todd as a son, surrogate son to him. And so therefore doesn't want to or cannot bring himself to fire him. That would make more sense. And then also why we're supposed to be rooting for Eileen and George to stay together. Because at the moment, it's just a pair of idiots who really, probably for domestic violence reasons, shouldn't be in a relationship, because it looks like it might get physical.
Okay, I'd just like to see some... I think they could work together. And,
Yeah, me too, but they just need to
Archie
stop
was
shouting.
lovely and gentle and wonderful and nice, and George has definitely got the potential for that, but he just...
It's just kind of Stan and Hilderish without any of the sort of the charm.
The warmth.
Yeah. There's no warmth behind it at the moment. It's just two people that fancy each other, but also shout at each other for some reason. It's not romantic at all.
It just feels very cliche, doesn't it? Like, let's get on with it.
And of course, we have to raise the point that some people still are about how appropriate it is to have comedy funeral mishaps. Unfortunately, as long as this character and the set is in the show, there will forever be comedy funeral. It doesn't bother me.
We said this when we had Ted's funeral, that I know upset a lot of people, and that didn't particularly bother me either.
A pandemic is going on, and people rightfully point out that now is not really the time for this kind of thing.
I found Todd stuffing the money into the urns kind of funny.
I didn't think it was funny that they swapped over the ashes, and George was like, oh well, okay, Sarah.
I thought it was silly.
He's really inconsistent with what he thinks is acceptable. Like, on the one hand, he's happy to pay £5,000 out of his own money to make up somebody's funeral, and on the other hand, he's like, oh, just give him a Shetland pony. Well, how are they going to know?
The Shetland pony mafia boss thing, that was what really annoyed me, because it's like, that wouldn't happen, would it? The writer just puts that in because isn't it funny that one of them's a Shetland pony and the other one's a gangster's son?
Yeah, I honestly think that you cremate...
I want Coronation Street to retain an ounce of believability.
Do they do pet
and just
funerals
putting things like that in, it just
when we get our pets,
smacks of somebody saying, "Wouldn't this be funny?" And it was kind of funny in a way, with Todd saying, "Oh, this old lady's going to have a mafia boss's son round her neck," but. Oh, I don't know. It just came across as a bit of a bad sitcom vibe, really. Sorry. oh, I didn't want to not like it this week. What is it? Pants. I don't like Paul. We're supposed to be on Paul's side, but is there anything that Paul has done this week that's actually supposed to endear us towards him? He's just, again, grumpy, isn't he? He's... Should we move on?
You're just going on and on.
I'm really hot. It's a really hot evening. Can we talk about the Ryan and Daisy storyline, which... Was that...
Yes.
But that didn't even appear in
Would you like me
episode,
to talk about it, or are you going to carry on moaning?
Yes, I would like to talk about it, please, because we were left last week with Ryan being lured into bed by lovely Daisy.
No, we were not left like that.
She was stroking his leg.
We were left with an inebriated Ryan and a fairly put together Daisy with her rubbing his leg under the table. And the next thing we know, on Monday, Ryan wakes up wearing not very much in Daisy's bed, and Daisy comes in and says he was like a one-man festival last night. What does that mean?
Banging.
I thought she was talking about him hogging the toilets and overflowing it with disgusting waste.
I think he was doing his DJ routine last night. I think that's what she was trying to say.
Well, so how we left it on Friday engendered a lot of discussion about consent and what was going on, and is
this going to be issues? Is this going to be
an issues-based storyline? Is she going to rape him? Do we need reminding that this is wrong? If the genders were reversed, how would you feel then? A lot of people talking about that, and there were lots of different range of opinions about this.
It didn't really go there, did it?
But this is the thing; it was all jumping the gun, wasn't it?
Mm.
And we don't actually know what happens. They both say that nothing happened. We also...
Ryan doesn't remember. He says, I would remember if, but he doesn't know. Daisy's the one that told him nothing happened.
Yeah, but did nothing really happen? I assume nothing happened. Also, the other question is, what was Daisy's intentions? Because some people assume that she meant to seduce and... Well, it's not seduction, is it? Because he was drunk. It's like rape him, basically. Was that her actual intention, or did she just want to put him in a compromising position where he'd get drunk and end up in her bed?
Maybe.
We don't actually know because they haven't... Daisy's not got anyone to talk to about this, and we can't read her mind.
No, it's like, is Daisy the sort of person that would? And
also, we don't know whether Ryan would have gone, as long as Alia doesn't know, it's fine. I assume not as well. And the other thing I wanted to say about this is... The main thing is not what anybody else thinks about the situation. It doesn't matter whether you think it's fine, and if Daisy had slept with Ryan and he was drunk, that would be fine because he's a lad, or you say, well, if the genders were reversed, then it wouldn't be on and you would recognise this as wrong immediately, etc., etc. That's kind of all irrelevant because all that really matters is what Ryan thinks of the situation. Because Ryan is the victim in this situation, and it really is his perception of what happened that is the only thing that matters. Okay, but one thing I wanted to add in here is... This just proves to me how important it is to educate people, and not just women, about consent and when it is that you give it and when you don't. Because I can imagine Ryan going for years, had Daisy had raped him, never knowing that is what happened to him because he is a bloke and blokes don't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the most important thing is to educate people on it so that they can decide for themselves how they feel about a situation, given the knowledge that some people have and some people don't. That's all I wanted to say about this. It didn't end up being an issue storyline. No. Thank goodness, because I really was not...
Didn't need that.
Gemma,
can you educate me on what happened this week in this storyline,
yes,
please?
All right. I'm getting to it.
Go on, then.
Daisy's like, sorry, nothing happened. Alia is leaving messages for Ryan. She doesn't know where he is. Daisy's pretending that it's possible that they had slept together. She's like, I don't know, but we were probably too drunk to do anything. Did we kiss each other though? No. That must have just been a dream. We were just having a laugh. So she's feigning ignorance, but she's also kind of sowing the seeds of doubt in Ryan's mind about what did I actually do last night. Ryan finds his phone and says, well, I would remember if I'd been unfaithful. Or would I? See, I don't know. It raises a lot of interesting questions. I think that's just all it really needs to do, don't you?
Oh yeah.
I think
It
it's
went as far as it
enough.
needed to.
Yeah, I think it's enough that we sort of collectively each had our say, as a Corrie watching community about how we thought, and maybe some people had their perceptions challenged and perhaps some people didn't, I think. Alia is telling Yasmin that when Ryan gets about what's going on, then Ryan comes home. He's very sheepish. She's mad at him that he'd never even text her.
Yeah, he was saying, "Oh, it got late. He's and you imagine me," and he's kind of coming up with these excuses, really, isn't he?
She's like, "No, not having any of it." He says, "I'm sorry, I was with my mates. We're still all right though, aren't we?" And she's okay, yeah, but you've got to come straight home from work so that we can spend time together. Back at the pub, Ryan with Daisy is saying, "Oh, I still don't remember how I got upstairs." And Daisy's like, "You were the one coming on to me, but I was having fun, so I don't really mind." She's such a manipulative. Daisy, you need to get another trick before you age too much, because this is not going to be working on anybody. Unfortunately, once you get past a certain age, I'm sorry, there's a shelf life for this kind of behaviour. Ryan's like, "No, we definitely wouldn't have done anything, but we should keep things professional from now on. So no more cocktail tasting business development meetings, Ryan. I guess you could have known that before."
And I'll stop flicking you on the arse with a wet bar towel as well.
Alia comes into the pub and wants to have a special night later with Ryan, and Daisy says, "Oh no, we've got to have a meeting with an events planner once Ryan finishes work." And she says, "You can have dinner with Alia anytime. This needs sorting today." And Alia says, "Nope, he's coming home with me." And Ryan sides with Alia.
Good for him.
They're in the back together, Ryan and Alia,
Daisy.
Ryan and Daisy later. And Alia walks in the threshold of the room, standing behind Ryan, so he doesn't know that she's there. And she's just there, like, earwigging. Daisy looks at her and says, "Oh, isn't it awful about what happened last night?" And Ryan's like, "Oh, I hate lying. I'm going to tell the truth." And Alia walks in going, "Well, truth about what?
Truth about what?
You're a tramp. You're a tramp."
Daisy.
I mean, she should be saying that to Ryan as well.
You're
Ryan
a
is
man
also
tramp.
Ryan is also a bit of a tramp.
Your
in
bin men are going to
general.
spend so much on your funeral.
Is that victim blaming, Gemma? I don't know, but he is in general. I mean, not just in this situation with Daisy. He's a bit of a tramp, isn't he?
Yeah.
But in a different way than Daisy. Daisy smirks as Ryan chases Alia out of the pub, grovelling and trying to apologise. They get back to the house. Alia slams the door in his face, and Jenny and Billy are watching this happen. And Jenny's like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on there." Then somehow Ryan gets in the house and says, "Sorry, I don't remember it. I can't deny it's possible that we slept with each other," because Daisy doesn't remember either. And Ali's like, "Oh my God, I don't believe you." She goes to confront Daisy in the cafe. Daisy's like, "Look, okay, fine. I didn't sleep with him. I felt bad about what happened because Ryan came on to me. We had a little snog, and then I put him to bed. Sorry, I can't tell a lie. That's what happened." Alia goes back and says, "Ryan, Daisy's told me everything. You're a tramp." They both get a bit teary. She says, "Right, that's it. You've thrown away our..." She goes, "You've thrown this all away. Like, what is all of this? What is this? This relationship, this beautiful budding relationship that is based on God knows what. What do they have in common?" I mean, apart from
they both hated Jeff at one point.
yeah, they both hated Jeff. They both live in the same geographical area.
Yeah.
They're both a similar age.
There's not much to go on, is there? It's
Not
a bit
a lot
chalk and
there,
cheesy,
no.
but
You've thrown it all away on a fumble with a local barmaid. "Oh, it didn't mean anything. I want to forgive you, but I can't. I can never be with you again because I'll always be suspicious. It's over." Anyway, Jenny finds Ryan with his bags in Victoria Gardens. She's like, "Oh dear, did Daisy screw you over?" And he says, "Well..."
he kind of says it is something to do with Daisy, but he doesn't say what, does he?
Well, she takes him back to the pub, and I guess he is he staying there now?
Yes.
Oh, that can't go wrong.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Come on,
isn't
Jenny.
it? Well, it gets worse by the end of the week.
Well, let me tell you. Alia's with Yasmin later, crying, and Yasmin says, "Oh, Daisy's going to eat him alive, and he deserves it." Victim blaming Yasmin. At the pub, Jenny listens in as Daisy and Ryan are talking. Daisy's saying, I like the attention that you gave me, and I might not have the willpower to resist you next time. And anyway, Alia's going to take you back if she loves you. And Ryan's like, oh, bye. Jenny comes in, and she's like, so that's why you were sexy the other day. And Daisy's like, I'm always sexy.
Jenny, I was so disappointed in her because
this was dumb. Jenny's like, right, you're a big troll.
Once again, I have discovered that you're an evil, scheming cowbag.
I've uncovered your manipulative plans to ruin the lives of people around you for fun. And she's like, Jenny, I'm sorry.
She says, I'm such a big disappointment.
I'm so mad at myself because I'm so sexy, I can't help it. And Jenny's like, oh, Daisy.
Oh, you poor love.
Oh, it's so horrible, isn't it? Being beautiful, I know.
Why does Jenny say? Why is she so
I don't get this.
This
This felt like the writers just going, this scene's over. You know what I mean? Like, Jenny and Daisy have a confrontation, and then Jenny gives in instantly, like immediately.
Jenny managed to cope for like 5 years without Daisy being a part of her life. She just needs to kick her out, really. She's a troublemaker, and maybe she does feel guilty about it and everything, but Daisy's proven again and again and again that she isn't to be trusted.
No.
She's just a nasty piece of work.
Jenny falls for the crocodile tears, and then Daisy has the decency to at least look slightly guilty when Jenny leaves her pretend crying over the fake granite or marble, whatever it is. Wednesday, Ryan's grovelling to Alia, saying, I was at the Rovers last night because you kicked me out. And she's like, I don't care. You're single. You do what you like. He's moping in the pub.
In the pot.
Well, I mean, from the way you've written these notes, he could have been mopping as well. I don't know. Daisy says, look, the other night, we just had a cuddle. It was no big deal. That's the worst thing that happened. Don't worry about it. Alia sends Ryan a text, summoning him to the house, and he goes, and Daisy gets her nose put out of joint because he leaves her again to go off to grovel to Alia. So he goes over there with flowers, and she says, no, I just texted you so you can come and get your stuff. Alia, the traditional method is to throw it out of the bedroom window onto the street while you shriek about what a horrible
That's the Corrie way, isn't it?
Bastard he is. You don't text him to come and get his stuff. Come on, you can do better than that. He says, sorry. And she says, I can't forgive you. I deserve better. She's been reading self-help books or watching motivational videos on YouTube, I think. And listening to James Blunt, perhaps, and crying. Daisy sees Alia kicking Ryan out with all his bags. And he goes back to the Rovers with Daisy, moaning about the fact that he's like, oh, you know what the worst thing about all of this is? Not just that I've lost my girlfriend and I'm homeless and I'm being manipulated by a skank, but I've also just been offered this really sweet DJing gig in the skiing resort, because what do they do in their downtime in the summer? They like the DJs, and I've got a free ticket for someone else, and I don't know who to take. Daisy, do you want to come? Yeah, of course I do. I'd love to.
He's such a dingbat,
okay, then. He's like, literally, he's like, I don't know who will go with me on this free trip. Well, and she says something. Does he say something about sharing rooms? I don't know.
This is just like when Jenny slept with Ronnie accidentally, and then he just keeps hanging about, and she's like, oh, I shouldn't really have anything to do with you, but oh yeah, you can come back and be lodging with me again. Literally, you were the cause of my marriage splitting up, but yeah, fine, come back and live here again. And Ryan's like, you just caused me to split up with my girlfriend. Yeah, I suppose I'll go on holiday with you.
To be fair, this is a bit like me sitting on the sofa complaining how fat I am eating ice cream. So I can sympathise with this.
Oh dear me. So this story was not the best, because
I kind of didn't mind this.
I didn't mind it.
It felt a bit like I didn't like Jenny just being such a walkover, because her character is that she's also quite savvy.
She really is. She should be.
And she's
I mean, just blind when it comes to Daisy.
They have established that she is blind when it comes to Daisy.
Yeah, so. I don't like it though. But
what I want is a scene with Jenny saying this to somebody. If it has to be Ronnie, so be it. You know what? I know she's a bad and I know that she's wrong, but when I look at her, I just see that little girl. When she was younger, she was such an angel. And when I see her now, I just see that beautiful, young, innocent girl, and I can't bring myself... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need some kind of excuse. Some kind of... alibi for Jenny being a bit silly with.
Yeah.
So anyway,
the other problem with this was still that, you know, like you said earlier, the Ryan and Alia relationship. I know that
don't care about it. I've been saying for ages.
But yet again, Corrie has done the minimum possible over the last, how long have they been going out? 2 years? To make us care about them.
They also just seem intrinsically
Don't split up. Who cares?
They just seem incredibly incompatible because before Daisy even tried this on Ryan, there was a wedge there that she exploited, wasn't there? Because Ryan is a dreamer and a layabout, and I am the same. I'm not complaining about that. But Alia is very driven and ambitious, and I cannot see them ever making a future together.
They've always struck me as being like, why are you going out with each other? Is it apart from plot convenience?
Honestly, they're both holding each other back because Alia wants to move out. She wants to develop her career. She wants a partner who's equally driven. I imagine she wants to get lots of money, get a nice house, have a family, and live a sort of a very kind of nice suburban life. Ryan probably would be still happy if he was sleeping on someone's couch when he's 50, as long as he's doing his streaming DJ set and he's getting lots of like emojis or whatever they'll be in.
I've just never really felt the spark between them.
There isn't one.
They seem like friends, and I can't say any more than that, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but
I think we've said everything that we've got to say about it.
So do you believe, Daisy, that nothing happened?
Yeah. Because I don't want to complicate this. I don't need. The thing is about this storyline is that we've had a male rape storyline not that long ago. And admittedly it was under different circumstances, but I think Corrie's done enough to sow the seeds in people's minds of thinking, oh, I understand now what people are saying when they talk about consent, and it is just as important for a man, etc., etc. We don't really need Ryan. The story's not about that, you know. The story with David was about that and how he felt about it and how he came to terms with it and the ramifications for his life. With Ryan, the whole story is just to split him and Alia up.
So if that was the case, why wouldn't Daisy have bedded him? She could have had him.
Because the writers don't want us to write Daisy off.
But I'm just kind of taking that
from her perspective.
Yeah,
I don't know why she did it.
Unless she's doing it because she realises that maybe that would be too far, and if she at least splits them up now, he will come to her eventually, because she definitely fancies him. She's
got enough of an ego to sort of, in her mind, not want him to be blind drunk. Like, she probably would prefer to win him over willingly.
Yeah, she doesn't like the sort that would settle for a bit of a drunken fumble if she could wait a week and get a
She probably
night
also
of hot, sober passion.
Really likes the fact that she managed to split Ryan and Alia up without even sleeping with Ryan.
That just seems to be her thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Splitting people up.
Yeah.
So, do you think that Alia is right not to forgive him? Because he
was
seemed
silly.
fairly adamant that she wasn't going to take him back.
We actually don't know whether they kissed or hugged each other.
No, we don't even know whether they kissed.
Honestly, to me, it's bad enough that you were in someone else's bed.
Yeah, and he had his clothes off as well. That's what made me think that maybe they did do something.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume
he was
not.
Pretty déshabillé on Monday morning, and
yes, I know.
Did he take his own top off? Did she take it off? Did they throw it off in a fit of passion?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Did he have anything on the bottom?
I don't care anymore.
Was he doing a late night audition for the Weatherfield calendar? I don't know, but something might have happened.
Why do you want something to have happened?
No, I don't.
Because it's a massive can of worms, and I'm not interested.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Anyway,
the storyline's not over, is it?
Like I've said about a million times before on the show, it's irrelevant what anybody else thinks about whether Alia and Ryan should have stayed together and whether Alia should forgive him or not. In a relationship, no one else's opinions about where your boundaries are relevant. If Alia and Ryan have a mutual understanding that kissing and hugging and sleeping in someone else's bed is no-go, then the relationship, she is right to end it. Other people can have a relationship where somebody else goes and has a protracted love affair with somebody, and that's fine. Also, cool, as long as they both agree.
Yeah.
The only problem is when you don't have an equal understanding of where the boundaries are. And that's
I
the
don't
whole
blame
point
her
of
for-
this show.
I don't blame her for being a bit miffed that he literally went back to the scene of the crime the next
He's
night
dumb.
when he could have gone and stayed with Carla, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, no victim blaming on this show whatsoever. But if Alia, the thing is, Alia was like, don't go anywhere with her, and it wasn't anything to do with what happened, what Daisy did to him. It was the fact that Ryan was like drinking with her in the back room when Alia specifically said, she's trying to get you. I'm worried about this. If your partner is worried about you being close to somebody, and you
stay
respect
away.
them, and you know, and they're not trying to control you, because that's the other thing. Obviously, you don't want somebody who's like will never let you have a friend or hang around with somebody. But anyone can see what Daisy's doing.
So do you think that they're just going to come back from the Alps and they'll be together? Are we going to miss...
I want us to have an on location at the Alps few scenes. Corrie on location. Why not a DVD spin-off? Ryan and Daisy.
Well, they just get a shed somewhere, can't they? And say that it's an alpine hut.
I mean, this time of year, you can... There's no snow, is there?
I don't know.
I've never been... Have I been to the Alps? I don't know. I've been skiing, but I don't know what the mountain was.
Right, speaking of no clothes, the full Monty next. This is a bit of a funny storyline, wasn't it? Steve has invited Curtis round for a curry with Tracy and Emma later on Monday episode, and this is where we learn that Steve has earned £96,000 from all this cycling and jogging or whatever he's been doing. And Curtis says
Baffling.
it's a shame that you've stopped when it's so close to getting a nice round figure of £100,000.
I don't get Curtis. I'm suspicious of everything he does because his character makes no sense.
Well, he's like, yeah, I've been going out with Emma for a good couple of weeks now. Maybe now's the time to say, can I see your dad with his clothes off and all of his mates?
Honestly,
it's a bit weird, isn't it?
It really feels like Curtis is like, this is in my mind. The only thing that makes sense to me is that he's training to be a doctor.
Oh yeah, I keep
right?
forgetting that. Yeah.
I think he's training to be a dermatology specialist. And what he's doing is he's making a map of everybody's freckles as part of his dissertation or something.
Got it, my gum.
And this is why he desperately needs nude photographs of all the men of Weatherfield, because nothing else makes any sense. Who is this calendar? Can I just ask this? I don't know anything about naked calendars. I find the whole idea ridiculous. I know people think it's funny, but I think the joke is... I don't get the joke anymore. The fact that they exist is funny. You don't actually need to make one for me to get the joke that a naked calendar. I just don't. I'm not the audience for this at all. I would pay you money not to show it to me. But who is this aimed at? I guess he's going for as broad a spectrum as possible because he's got James Bailey and Steve McDonald in it.
They need to
Is
put
it like
James
for
Bailey on
anybody?
the cover of this calendar, really, if they're hoping to
This
get
is what I was thinking.
£4,000 for it.
When they were saying, "Oh, we've got 13 people, I don't know what to do," it's like I was going, "Put James Bailey on the cover, you absolute donkey."
So yeah, he wants to.
If
the
James
week
Bailey
is basically.
is not naked with a football in front of his crotch, they've just ruined the whole concept.
I know. So the whole week basically is him and Emma trying to
Get people to sign up.
enlist people
Like-
for their naked calendar.
I've noticed, and I'm all for this, society becoming increasingly more prudish as time gets on, right? How is this not sexual harassment for this bloke to be walking around going, "Oh, take your clothes off for dead children"? What, you hate dead children? Are you going to tell Steve that you're glad Ollie's dead and you won't take your pants off? Is that what you're trying to say? Oh, I'll sign you up for December then.
This is a bit like the Ryan and Daisy story, where it's another one like, if the boot was on the other foot, would we think about it in a different
If
way?
Curtis was going around trying to get all the ladies' baps out.
And yeah, because it wasn't just Curtis, was it? It was Emma asking all the men to take the kits off for the calendar. Yeah, if Curtis was going up to, Eileen and Jenny and Sally, that would be really...
I just find this really odd.
And not only that, but tricking them into it, which is what Wednesday is, because Monday's
Listen
episode
again,
ends...
I want to say, I don't want to blame victims ever, but these people would really readily agreed to do something that they said they really didn't want to do. So
Yeah. So, Steve at the end of Monday's episode is a bit like, I don't really fancy that, actually, thank you very much. But on Wednesday, they are able to masterfully ensnare him into it by saying, oh, there's going to be free food and booze at the photo shoot. Sorry, that'd be good, wouldn't it, Steve? And Steve's like, oh yeah, definitely. And then they're also like, oh, and Mr. December, eh? That's a really important one. We reckon Dev maybe should be that. And he's like, I am much cleverer than Dev. No, he says, I'm much funnier than Dev. I'll do it.
I'll be Mr. December.
He's on board.
Can I just also add to this that I'm sure this will never happen.
What?
But so this really is to raise money in the memory of Ollie.
Yes.
What does Leanne think about this project? Does she think it's funny that all the men in Weatherfield are getting their cocks out for her dead child?
I don't know. She used to take her clothes off for money as well, didn't she?
So how much she raised? £96,000.
Yeah, she probably only has to.
But do you see how this is another example of like really bad taste charity fundraising on Coronation Street? Like the time that they arranged a bunch of comedic drag acts for Toya's rape in the Rovers. They had a drag night to raise money for a charity for Toya's.
Didn't they? God, that was a good.
The Battersby sisters aren't doing very well with the charity front, are they?
Steve's on board.
I just want to say, when it comes to raising money for charity, just stick to running or cycling.
Baking cakes.
Anything to do with sex or nudity or bad jokes.
Dev is reluctant to do this as well because he says it's giving him flashbacks to when he had that. And that was a nice reference, wasn't it? It was the Tara thing, the big Dev unveil, or the big photograph of Dev with liar sprawled across it back. That was like 20 years ago now, wasn't it?
And can we also say, if this was a issues-based story, this is why it's like, I'm getting a bit of ideological whiplash on this show sometimes. Maybe he does have PTSD from this because he was also... Is that not also sexual harassment and revenge porn? Putting a giant naked picture of somebody and revealing it in front of everybody. I mean, if you uploaded that picture to the internet now, would that not be revenge porn?
Yeah, but Gemma, it's funny when it happens to a man. Remember?
Just
this naked calendar is funny because it's men that it's
fun. I tell you how you can tell. How you can tell if it's a joke on Coronation Street or not, if you're supposed to take it seriously. If the scene happens and then a character at the end gurns, it's funny. But if they don't and they cry, it's sad.
So for people who haven't been watching Coronation Street for all that long, there was a story back in the early 2000s where Dev went out with this girl called Tara, who was a fairly bit younger than him. He was also dating her mum at the same time. Tara finds out, is a little bit mad about it. I think she takes Dev back, and so they're going out for a little bit longer. And then he has it off with someone else, and this is when, for revenge, because she's like had an art showroom or something like that, she takes an arty-farty photo of him in the buff.
With a rose.
With a rose. He does have a rose, doesn't it? And then unveils it draped down the side of Victoria Court Flats for the whole world to see.
There's a big ceremony, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And he's there humiliated in front of everybody.
Yeah, so he's like, I don't really fancy that, actually, thank you very much. But Emma and Curtis managed to butter him up because they say, we've asked all the local ladies who they want to be in our local calendar, and you're top 3, Dev. And he's like, oh, really? So... To
me, if somebody told this to me and then they said, yeah, quite a lot of the people around here want to see you with no clothes on, I'd have to move. I'd find that traumatic. I'd be scared of being raped. Can you see, like, this to me, I get that we're supposed to think it's funny and I'm a prude, etc., and I'm frigid and all this kind of stuff. I just don't like the idea of it. I think it's really gross.
Dev is a bit of a player and he thinks that he's, still desirable, doesn't he? I mean, we just saw the thing with Sharon a few months ago.
This is the other thing. This is being played as a joke because all of these men were supposed to be laughing at the thought that anybody wants to see them naked. So it's ageist, sexist, and it's also sexual harassment.
Tim time later. Literally, they only have to walk up to Tim, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here then? They say, you know what, Tyrone says you'd chicken out of this, and Tim's like, I would never do that, I'm in. When literally 10 seconds before he doesn't want to do it at all. So, anyway.
I mean, I'm not going to get too mad about this. Like, this is supposed to be a funny story.
I think
I'm
maybe,
going to shut up moaning about it now.
I don't know whether by this point they got the full compliment. But we also get a little thing at the end of the episode where Jenny asks Emma if she's had any joy bonking Curtis yet, and apparently not.
If Tim's picture is not him naked astride Tiny, again, missed a trick.
He needs to have a Lady Godiva wig on. What's everyone
Can you
else
just
gonna...
imagine the animal handler for Tiny? What's he called? Hercules or
Yeah.
no? He's called something different.
Yeah, I think that's... No, the original horse's name was going to be Hercules, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Anyway, the handler for the actor who plays Tiny the horse, who's
Joe Datine.
gets off like spraying the horse down with Detex and like getting a hand wipe and just wiping the like. Sorry, it's just COVID.
If I was having a naked photo shoot and like Tiny was, I wouldn't want to be in a photo.
Compared.
Compared to Tiny, and have maybe the word Tiny somewhere on the page.
Yeah,
I don't think
Tim
I'd,
and
I don't think
Tiny.
I'd fancy
Which
that.
one's which?
Tiny Tim, yeah. So he's gonna be on a horse, is he? Steve, we've already learnt, is gonna have a pair of car keys. Tracy reckons covering his manhood.
Well, I don't think Tim's going to be on a horse. That's just my fantasy.
He's gonna have a bucket for his window cleaning round, isn't he?
Who? Tim?
Tim, yeah. Who else have we got? What's Dev gonna have? Banana, maybe from the shop.
So in your mind,
James-
can I just say, in your mind, they're literally all of them just standing, facing the camera with an object like grasped in front of their.
Well, they might go full on Austin
crotch.
Powers and make it a bit more artier than that. You got Kevin's going to have a wrench or a spanner or a lug nut or something like that.
So long and thin.
James Bailey's got his
He's got to have a football.
Who else is that? What's Imran going to have?
Yes, Imran is involved in this. I get very disturbed by
this has just got a throwaway
How
line
many
today,
have we got?
doesn't it? Well,
Hang on a minute. They've got Chesney. Like, who asked Chesney? I don't want to be rude, but nobody wants to see Chesney.
Nobody wants to see any of these people.
No, I know. And I would say that if they were women as well, because there's a reason that supermodels and naked models get paid lots and lots of money because they have exceptionally beautiful bodies and most of us do not.
You don't know, Sam Aston might be rocking a six-pack down there.
I really don't want to ever know.
Chesney's going to have a squirty bottle of garlic sauce.
Oh, like what?
Yes.
Spraying it towards the camera. What?
Or a dog bone or something. Maybe that's what Kirk can have.
Dog bone, right? Kirk, Chesney, Imran, Steve.
Oh,
Dev,
Adam's going to do it, isn't he?
Adam.
He's going to have
James.
He's going to go behind a sewing machine.
I'm only on 7.
Ryan, is he doing it? I can't remember. I don't remember. They've got 13 people anyway, haven't they, by the end of today's episode?
I don't want to see 13
They're not
people
having
naked.
Brian because he's doing the photos today.
He was so offended they didn't ask him, and I couldn't see why they didn't either.
Oh no! I mean, why
What's
why
the
other
difference?
people but not him? Just because he's slightly
Everybody is beautiful.
slightly rounder.
Slightly rounder.
If I was in a naked calendar,
Yeah.
Gemma, what do you reckon my job themed?
Can I just say,
should be?
if you were in a naked calendar and you had any job-related prop, you would rightfully be fired because you're a primary school teacher.
I think I would have a ruler, no, a meter stick.
What about one of those wheels that clicks and
Trundle wheel.
trundle wheel?
Yeah,
Oh, that's what they call you, old trundle
piece
wheels.
of chalk, more like probably.
Oh my god!
Right, what happened?
I would wear a duvet for mine.
Oh yeah, no, you'd have I can't think of anything good to cover your modesty that's editing related.
Nothing's big enough.
Okay, you have a couple of monitors maybe.
I don't want to talk about it. It's making me feel funny.
Friday, Brian's on the run from Amy because he thinks he's going to be asked to be in the calendar.
Right,
And he hears
again,
that-
why is this child harassing people?
Well, she's only asking people about the
The photography.
photography. Anyway, isn't she 18 by now, Amy?
I don't care. It's not appropriate for an 18-year-old girl to be approaching a grown man who has recently been in the papers and harassed. Next, he's going to have pedo written on the door.
Yeah. James agrees as well, and then
And he does this thing. It's like, you got to ask my agent, and my agent, I've got to have a rider with like iced tea or whatever. And I was thinking, actually, James, you're joking, but you probably
Well, that's
should
what I was
ask your
thinking.
agent.
You probably should,
And your
really.
agent probably would say, no, you cannot be in this naked calendar.
Well, your sex life has already been splurged across social media over just a couple of months ago, and maybe taking your kit off. I don't know. Maybe it's good publicity for the football club. I don't know.
I really don't think that it's going to change anybody's mind.
I don't know. I wonder.
He's got a bad opinion.
So, because the tragedy here is that Curtis can't count, and now he's got 13 people that have signed up for the calendar. So what's he going to do? He needs to look at his list of 13 and say, who's the least desirable one here?
Like,
who do I not really want to have in my calendar?
Who do I fancy? Like, this is what I don't think this is the case. But honestly, Coronation Street is kind of setting it up like Curtis is some kind of incorrigible pervert who is trying to get these pictures of these men for his own perverted delight.
I know, it's so odd, isn't it?
He goes to number 5
He's
and
going to
tells...
get all the photographs, and then he'll scarper over the hill and far away.
Nobody
We'll never
will
see him again.
And then we'd be like, oh, I thought it was strange.
Anyway, Chesney says, yeah, that's fine if you don't want me to do it. That's he bites his hand off, basically.
Well,
he also gives him a bit of advice about Emma and says, yeah, don't worry, she was a bit slow going with me too, but if she didn't like you, you'd know about it, so don't worry.
I really did not like this entire story revolving around the fact that they've known each other for like 2 weeks and they haven't shagged, so something's gone horribly wrong somewhere.
I know. Well, I mean, Emma did drop her drawers for David, like within hours of meeting him that first time, didn't she? She has been known to, yeah, she's a bit of a sexual deviant, is that Emma?
Is she?
She is, yeah.
She's
a randy bugger.
Gemma's has her nose put out of joint here because she was excited about Chesney being naked in the calendar, and I don't get this because surely she can have a naked picture of Chesney whenever she wants and she doesn't have to share it with people.
I guess Gemma just doesn't mind. Doesn't mind having a fella like splashed across
so let me get this straight.
The walls
she
of the
found
horny
it
women of
slightly
Weatherfield.
Too intrusive to have a poster of herself with her children advertising supermarket food in return for hundreds of thousands of pounds. But having a photo of her boyfriend naked in a calendar is absolutely A-OK with her, to the point at which she's actually forcing an uncomfortable and embarrassed Chesney to do it, seemingly against his own will. Also, grooming his pubic hair without his consent.
What, did she?
She said she's
going to do a bit of waxing, isn't she?
He doesn't want to do any of this, and this is also supposed to be funny. And all the people, can I just say, at the beginning of the week or last week going, oh, Daisy and Ryan, if the roles were reversed, what would you think of it? Same here.
That's what I said earlier.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, even further on, this is why it gets really murky when Coronation Street does comedy and issues that are basically the same story.
Yeah, well, anyway...
Not that there's ever been an issue-based story about a naked charity calendar.
You've been affected by this story, though.
If you've been naked in a calendar against your... Oh, please, call the police. Don't come to ITV.
It's fine, though, because Chesney's going to share a page with Kirk, isn't he? Which will be
Emma suggests this. Oh, no, that's gross. Emma suggests this to Curtis. So not only can... And Curtis is like, yeah, I should have thought that. Not only can Curtis not count beyond 12, but he also cannot imagine two things at once. And he wants to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I suppose, actually, if you're a doctor... You only need to count to... Oh, no, you need to be able to count to 20 just to check all the fingers and toes.
Anyway, the episode ends and Emma and Curtis go and have whoopee together in her flat. So, all's well that ends well there.
I hated this as well. At the end of this scene, Curtis and Emma are in the bar together and he says... they both do the old, I want to talk to you. No, I want to talk to you first. Curtis says, oh, Emma, you're going to dump me, aren't you? I know you are. And she says, no, I'm not. And he says, what? The reason I thought that is because... The whole taking things slow thing is really difficult on me because every time I'm around you...
I want to jump your bones.
And literally, the implication here is that he is so overwhelmed with sexual urges that he wants to hold her down and molest her. And this is supposed to be romantic. This reminds me of Twilight, when we're supposed to think that Edward is, and whatever her bland face is, are in this really romantic super relationship, and he's like 100-year-old man who keeps crawling in the bedroom window of an 18-year-old girl and sleeping in her bed. And that's supposed to be romantic. Literally, he's there going, I can't control myself, so I'm backing away from you. If you literally can't physically control yourself around somebody who has said, don't want to sleep with you right now, and so you have to physically distance yourself from them because you're scared you might rape them, perhaps you've got a problem, and you should stop focusing on the nude charity calendar that you're on and go and, like, put yourself in a sex addict rehab facility or something.
I think that sounds too exciting for Curtis.
Curtis is boring as hell. If he is up to something shady, it'll be the most exciting thing that's ever happened to him. Because
He's been
boring.
in the show for quite a while now, and he's fine, but he's not exciting, is he, as a character?
No.
He doesn't have a whole lot going for him, sadly.
He reminds me
I don't
a bit-
dislike him, but come on.
He reminds me a bit of Andy.
Yeah, he's fairly personality-less.
I mean, if somebody kidnapped Curtis and put him in the basement, I'd be thrilled. I'd find him much more interesting.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Andy McDonald.
No, I'm talking about Andy, Basement Andy.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, yeah, Andy McDonald equally boring.
Yeah. So, this story was okay. At least this story wasn't trying to be
This story
serious
was
or dramatic.
so problematic to me.
At least it wasn't trying to be serious and dramatic like the others, so it was fine. I guess we'll see more of that next week. I guess we'll see more of the Corrie men than we've ever seen before next week.
This is the trouble with Coronation Street. If I get bored by a week, I just get really nitpicky about everything. Literally, there's nothing wrong about a charity nude calendar thing. It's supposed to be a bit of a laugh, but because I'm annoyed about everything else that's happened, I just want to pick holes in it.
I don't. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago since they did the Full Monty thing. It was when they had the Rovers Fire, didn't they? There was a load of guys at the bistro, Carl Monroe and Dr. Matt and maybe Tommy Duckworth and a few others doing a strip at the bistro. Do you remember that?
I just don't find it in.
We are just a bunch of prudes.
I am
really,
a prude
aren't we?
because I'm not a prude because I don't care if other people do it. But literally, I'd much rather have a prawn cocktail.
Paper stay pajama.
Isn't it?
Oh, what do we call
Yeah.
this? Oh yeah, Stapes Paper Caper.
Yes.
What's Fizz been up to
Featuring
this week?
the real life daughter
Oh yes,
of
of
the
Dr.
actress who
Gaddis.
plays Dr. Gaddis.
Yes, Chris the Journo is apparently, I just read this on Reddit, I don't know even if it's true, the daughter of Dr. Gaddis.
But when we watched this, we also felt the aura of Hayley Madden about her because she has
She
this
was a
really
bit
lovely,
Madden-ish.
kind of bubbly smile too, didn't she?
Yes.
Miss Hayley Madden.
I totally miss Hayley Madden in the show.
Right, on Monday, Beth says... Oh, Beth's been back for a while now.
Only a
Calm
little
down.
bit. She was a bit back last week.
No.
Last week.
Monday, Beth advises Fizz to move on and start dating to wind Tyrone up. And she gets her to sign up to a dating app against her will. Again, consent is the word of the week. She writes down that she's a single mum who's been jilted by her ex-partner for a younger model. And Fizz is like, I'm going to write a profile that puts all the men off. So I'm going... And she says, she writes down she's very bitter and angry, which apparently is VBA.
VBA.
I don't think that's real.
That means vagina...
Bums and...
I don't know.
And the other word for bum...
Vagina barely
No,
accessible. That's what it sounds like. That'd put people off. I put Curtis off.
Yeah, I've had a horrible accident, VBA, don't ask. Fizz gets a beep later, which is a reply going, I like the cut of your jib. Honesty for once. Fancy a meet? Fizz is like, hooray. But then Alina comes past and she's like, ooh.
Well, Fizz didn't think that she was going to get anyone, but the fact that somebody is paying her attention gives her a bit of
Of course, anyone would feel.
Yeah, feels a bit wanted. Which made her feel gutted for her when what actually
I
happened.
know, this is awful. Evelyn is impressed when she hears and says, oh, yes, definitely go. And Fizz
Shave
is
your
like,
legs, Fizz, before you go. Doesn't she say that?
Does she? Oh, yes, she does.
She does.
So she gets all dolled up. She goes to the bistro and finds out that Chris is a unisex name.
What?
And it's actually
It's a lady.
plucky reporter who decided, rather than what they normally do, which is to go on Twitter and go, does anybody have a story they can tell me about being jilted by their lover? She decides to set up a honey trap. And she didn't think that this would cause any problems or people would get mad at her.
Is this really a thing? I think that's starved for news at the
Yeah,
Weatherfield Gazette.
Listen, Michael, it's summer, and summer is silly season for journalism. There's literally nothing happening apart from the pandemic and the Olympics and everything else that's going on.
Well, there was also the MLM thing that was that hit the headlines recently, wasn't it? Who else? There was a couple of people that have been and somehow made it to front page news in the Weatherfield.
Is the front page of the Weatherfield Gazette the new Weatherfield Good Samaritan Awards?
Yeah, maybe.
I think you're thinking of James Bailey, who was
oh yeah, Bailey was
on
at
the
number
front
one,
page.
wasn't he? Yeah.
Anyway, so
I don't think Tyrone and Alina made it to the front page, but
woman dumped for younger model. Mate, hold the front page. This hasn't happened before.
no, front page is heat pump stolen.
Local
Also
Archbishop.
inside, what is a heat pump?
Local Archbishop perturbed. quote from Archdeacon's boyfriend. Just claim it on the insurance.
Anyway,
Local funeral parlour owner. Gulp.
moving on.
Moving on. Chris, the journalist, says, "Hey, I want to hear your story. You're such a great person. Why don't you tell me what your horrible boyfriend did to you?" And Fizz is like, "I'm not interested." And then she says, "Well, what if I just changed all the names?" And Fizz is like, "Perfect. No one will know then, will they?" On Wednesday, the factory girls are asking Fizz about what happened at the date last night. See, when Fizz went into the bistro and the woman was like, "It's me, Chris," and I was thinking, is Fizz gonna date a girl?
Yeah, I thought that as well.
Quite fun, actually. I think I'd have a drink with her.
I
And then
wondered-
it just turned into like improbable journalist story. He's got nothing to do.
Yeah. Like during a pandemic, don't arrange to meet somebody when you...
Random strangers in the bar.
I would have been so mad if I was Fizz. Like literally, she didn't want to go for this dating site anyway. She's been feeling super undesirable for the past few months anyway because of Tyrone leaving her. And then she's like, "Oh no, maybe I've got something going for me because this person signed up to see me." And then it turns out to be a trap. I'd have been right peeved off if I was her.
Stab her in the face.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your front page. Yeah, they're asking Fizz about the date. She's keeping stum, but she says, "Wasn't exactly what I expected." So she meets up with Maria in the cafe, and Maria says, "Actually, I think it'd be good for you to vent to the papers." That sentence should never be said to anybody because it's the worst advice I've ever heard. Venting to the papers is what gets people in trouble and what adds all those little numbers onto your Wikipedia page and the personal life section.
Yeah. I feel bad that Maria has got to this stage in her relationship with Tyrone as well, that she's happy to see his name dragged through the mud. She used to love him. She said, "I do" on top of Blackpool Tower.
Beautiful. Fizz meets up with the journalist and she goes on and on about Tyrone. She gets a bit drunk.
She starts spouting cliches about how she doesn't want to be a cage bird anymore, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, she does get a
The
bit tipsy,
journalist is
doesn't
probably
she?
just thinking, I could have just written this by watching Bridget Jones's Diary.
I could have just watched Coronation Street and written this myself.
Yeah. So, on Friday, Fizz tells Maria that she chatted to the journalist, and Maria's like, "Don't worry, this is the perfect thing." Then Kirk finds the article online, and even Kirk can tell that this is about Fizz.
That shows
Alina.
just how blatantly obvious it is that even he can pick up on the subtle clues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many people have knocked up their Romanian girlfriend and also work in a local car parlour? What's it called?
Garage.
That's
Car
right.
parlour.
I don't remember. Yeah, so she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It's not me at all." And Sean looks and it's like, "Yeah, this is definitely you, Fizz." How can it be that precise? You'd think you'd change some of the details, not just the names.
Yeah.
So Alina has caught wind of this.
Yeah, Fizz just spends most of the episode going, "No,
What do you mean?
I've not even read the article."
What article? Alina's like, "Fizz, you have betrayed us and you make us look so terrible in the papers." She shows Tyrone, "Look, this is about us." And he's like, "Oh yeah, isn't it?" And she says, "I don't like this because by relating the facts, it makes us look bad." Like, when you say all the things we have done, somehow it just looks really awful for us, don't you think?
Tyrone's probably likes the idea of this naked calendar going around because it's going to take people's minds off the silly car portrait that he's got
Tell you
done,
what,
hasn't it?
if Chris had found out while she was in the Rovers interviewing Fizz for, like, the oldest story ever told, like, people break up every now
It
and
is
then.
basically, isn't it?
She caught wind of the fact that there was a naked calendar charity shoot going on. That would have made the front page. James Bailey's balls are going to be in December.
Yeah.
That's more exciting than this story. Tyrone goes and confronts Fizz. She's like, no, that's definitely not me. Peter Pan. And he's like, that's what they said in the article. You definitely you that wrote this. And you said you never read it. And she's like, yoinks. Oh no. Meanwhile, there's a man skulking around who looks like he could be casing the joint, but actually just wants to buy a wardrobe, because I'm honestly not used to anyone buying anything in that place. So I was confused that they had an actual customer.
Is that Gary? Is he aged?
Gary's looking well rough. They argue. Fizz stands up for herself. Tyrone, they basically make each other look really awful, have a massive argument, and then for some reason this guy's been lurking, comes out, and he's like, oh, what a woman. Like, if you saw this lady and all you knew about her was that she'd gone to the papers about her ex, and then she's got the audacity to tell him that he's in the wrong, that she's gone and told everybody about this story, and they're both shrieking at each other, and you're like, wow, she'd make a great girlfriend. What is wrong with this guy? He's a lunatic as well.
He likes to live dangerously, this bloke, doesn't he?
He comes out and he's like, guess what? I don't have anywhere to put my clothes. And she's like, what's that got to do with me? And then he says,
Want to be on the naked calendar?
He says, well, I would quite like to buy a wardrobe. And she's like, oh yeah, we sell furniture. I'll get you some. How about that? And she's like all overwhelmed by how handsome he is and stuff. And then Alina, this was the interesting scene. This is the worm turning here. Alina is like, everyone thinks we're a joke, but I'm having a baby and it's definitely gonna be a real one. I know I've seen the prop cupboard with all of the little babies, but my one's gonna be a real baby.
She's going to put the record straight, isn't she? She's going to show them that we're not a joke.
So Tyrone's like, whatever you say, dear, goes to Daniel, summons Daniel to the pub. And Daniel's like, yeah, I've got nothing else to do. I mean, I'm not doing private tutoring and working part-time doing something and also being a teacher.
What's he doing at the moment?
Last time he was still supposedly, I thought, working at the bistro as a waiter. I don't think he's been fired.
Well, he definitely... He's had a job recently.
Well, he also writes for the paper, which is why Tyrone wants him there. And he says, I want a comeback article, set the record straight. And Daniel...
he's doing his PGCE, isn't he?
I said that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, he's going to be a teacher in September.
Good luck. Daniel says, listen, no matter what you say, there's no way you can twist any of this to make you look good. You've basically left your
You're
girlfriend...
living the dream, mate.
Yeah, he says, you've left your girlfriend with 2 kids, gone off, shacked up with your younger, better-looking woman, and got her pregnant, like, within a month. And how is this going to make it look like you've been wronged by Fizz's article? And he's like, oh, well, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to do it myself.
I don't know what he's saying there. Is he going to write an article himself and send it to the Gazette, or...?
The Gazette will love it. They'll print it. They can illustrate it with that beautiful picture that they've got of them by an exploding car. Anyway, at the end of the day, the guy comes back and says the wardrobe...
Ginger wardrobe man.
The wardrobe was great. Fits all my clothes in it, to be honest. I would prefer if there was a rail at the top, because at the moment they're all folded at the bottom. But I'm a man and I don't care about things like that. But what I do care about is a shag. Would you like to go out for a drink?
Yes.
And she goes, oh, yeah, I would actually.
Oh, what do you think of him? He seems a bit old for her.
I think he is a big strapping lad, isn't he?
He looks to me looks like the most Scottish person ever. Like, why isn't he Scottish when he opens his mouth? Surely.
He also to me
he just needs a sporran and a kilt.
And some, yeah. He looks to me like a cross between Chesney and Kirk.
Do you think?
Yeah.
No, I think he looks...
But big.
Yeah. He just looks like he should be tossing cavers to me. I can't get the image out of my head.
I think you've been watching too many cartoons
Maybe.
with the most stereotypical
Or
Scottish people.
maybe he and Fizz can get together and have some lovely Celtic-looking children together.
Why not? Why don't they? They should move to Aberdeen and start a shortbread factory.
Shouldn't Fizz be getting also a sexy younger model?
If she
If she
wants
wants
to
to
try
get revenge.
or maybe she should go. She should be like, get a millionaire.
Maybe he is.
Would a millionaire be buying a second-hand wardrobe for his
Well,
flat?
you don't make your millions by,
Maybe he's
getting
like,
everything from John Lewis, do you?
maybe he's like, who's that robot? Mark Zuckerberg. He's like, I always wear the same clothes.
Maybe. Anyway, he seemed quite.
Material
quite a decent
objects are just a distraction from stealing everyone's personal data.
I'd still prefer Fizz and Tyrone to get back together at the end of this. I know you wouldn't, but I don't think it's necessarily time for Fizz to move on. I think she needs to show that she can be a strong, independent woman. But oh well,
A strong, independent woman who don't need no man, but also is going to go on a date with this bloke.
yeah. That's what I don't think she needs to go with
Oh.
him. But oh well,
It just
he
adds a
seems
complication,
nice enough.
doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you think that she was right to talk to the paper?
Personally, I think this is actually another undercover journalist. He's playing a longer con than Chris, who couldn't literally last a second before she was like, "I'm secretly a journalist."
Yeah. Do you think Fizz is right for talking to the paper?
No, what a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
And also, again, I mean,
Did she get paid for it?
listen,
Probably.
I don't know. Some people get paid for things and some people don't, and I never have worked out.
I've been saying over these weeks, I don't like it whenever Fizz does something that could be construed as being, getting one over Tyrone, even though she is within all rights to do so. But
If she really wanted to
isn't it silly that she thought that she could get away with just changing the names and nobody would realise?
But the thing is, because it's the Gazette, it's like the local paper
Yeah, that they all get.
that everybody reads and everybody knows about. It's not like, and this is the thing, if she'd written into one of these weird magazines that you like, they all look the same. They're like Higher magazine, and they've all got these really bizarre like headlines on the front. They're the sort of magazine that would give her £100 to like slag off Tyrone in it. You know the ones I mean, like
Yeah.
a hamster shagged my nan and haunted Smarty ruins my wedding.
Yeah.
That's like left for a younger woman doesn't really fit on there because
I tell you what's the most newsworthy thing that happened this week that should be on the Weatherfield Gazette. They had a scene in the factory with 3 ladies sewing.
I know. And
First
Carla's
time in a
there.
long time.
Carla's there going, Sarah, this is the first time that they've been on the machine.
I know, you can tell Carla's back in charge, aren't you?
No wonder we're not getting any orders out. Literally, Izzy was the only one doing it, and she's working from home, being molested by her neighbour.
What's going on with that storyline?
That's gone quiet.
That has gone bizarrely quiet. I want to find out what's going on with the adventures of Izzy and Fergus.
A lot of people think that she's being coerced by him. I don't know. I think it's a bit too soon for that, to be honest, because we just had the coercion storyline.
I don't know. But anyway, nice to see some sewing scenes because it felt
It was honestly, it felt very jarring and kind of like,
Who was it? It was Beth, Sally, Fizz, wasn't it? I think. Quite nice.
And there was also
Sorry,
an
am I boring
extra in
you?
the back too.
There was a blonde extra, wasn't there? We also had Dirk in it. I think he was in every episode this week. Well, at least every day he was in there once. And then also, we had this Nick storyline on Friday, which literally can be summed up as Natasha says that Nick, you can look after Sam tonight because you're supposed to go for a sleepover and I've arranged to go out with my mates and now the sleepover's cancelled. So can you have Sam? And Nick says, brilliant, I love Sam. Let's buy him a blender. And then he's going to have the best weekend
so
ever.
Suspicious of
We're going to have a blender bender together.
If I was Natasha, I'd be like, I wouldn't normally ask this, but you have had him nearly shot by gangsters twice. I'm sorry, I need to ask this question. Are you going to chop him up and blend him? I need to ask. I just need to ask.
But,
I just need to hear you say it, Nick. I am not going to blend Sam up in my blender.
He wouldn't do that. He loves Sam.
No, but I can just imagine him being like, Sam, I love you so much. Chop, chop, chop.
I can't have you know.
Now he'll be with me forever. Leanne walks in going, what are you doing? Is that strawberry milkshake?
Crap. Anyway, Sam can't come round because the sleepover's back on and Nick's sad.
And then Leanne eats some cookies.
Yeah. I'm assuming that this is the build-up to another for this story this week, but I can't say I'm that excited by it because this is another story that just seems to be going round in circles, isn't it? Nick really wants to be Sam's dad, and Tasha doesn't really want Nick to be Sam's dad, and then she says, okay, Nick, you can look after Sam for a bit, and then Nick does something stupid or gets him into danger or something, and then Tasha's like, why did I ever trust you? This story's not going to get interesting until Natasha cops it, so just hurry up and happen.
Blend her up.
Yeah, she needs to go in that blender, doesn't she?
She trips and falls into the blender head first.
Yeah.
And Nick's like, oh no, I'm already pressing the button to turn it on. This is going to ruin the milkshake.
Right. That was this week.
That was a week.
We were a bit flippant about this week's episodes, weren't we?
I took the serious stuff unseriously. I made a massive mountain out of a molehill, no offence, Steve, of the naked calendar. What did you think?
Yeah.
It wasn't. The thing is,
two slices of ham on the turn this week is what I'm
oh
giving
my
this.
god, that wound me up as well.
What? You asked me the other day whether I'd have a slice of ham if it was on the turn. And I said,
what did I say to you? I can't even remember. I posed a conundrum that involved ham on the turn.
I can't remember.
But
I said I didn't really like slices of ham, so I probably wouldn't have that.
one of my most hated things is going around someone's house and they give you food and you eat it and then they go, oh, glad that you had that because that needed eating up because it was going off. And you think, why did you tell? Like, I don't like eating things, especially meat that is going off or past its sour date. It's like one of my things. And I've got friends, like I remember when we went round one of our friends' house who lives in Brighton.
Yeah, that's Katie.
No. And their dad was like, I'm just going to chop all the mould off the cheese and now it's as good as new. And here's the birthday pavlova. It was on offer because it went off yesterday. And I'm like, I don't need to know.
Sit down, guests.
Yeah, literally. I understand that cheese is edible when you cut the mould off it, but I don't really want to be seeing it prepared in front of me as the honoured guest of the family, served the cheese without mould on.
So
I know that makes me fussy, apparently, and elitist. That really annoyed me.
Two, but I mean, it could be lower. I don't know why I'm not going lower, honestly, because I really didn't find that much to enjoy this week. But I'll go 2 because 1.5 sounds bad. What about you?
See, the thing is about this week is that it's one of those ones where I can't put my finger on what went wrong. But as it was unfolding the week in front of me, I just couldn't...
It didn't make me angry.
Nothing was interesting that much, and it's all a bit.
Was it the characters
farcical.
that were involved? I really liked Todd, and Todd was quite a big player this week. I like Ryan. Ryan was quite an important character this week. Quite like Emma a lot, actually. So maybe I don't know.
Don't know what went wrong, but it was a bit dull. So I'm going to give it 2 packs of bog roll in one day, which is about how many I'll go through.
Yeah. We do go through a lot of toilet roll in this house, don't we?
It's because
it's not me, because I'm at school most of the time.
It's because I'm a lady and I drink a lot of tea.
Okay. I had to tidy it. Our bathroom bin was overflowing with bog rolls the other week, wasn't it?
I don't throw the bog rolls away.
We had tens of bog rolls just on our bathroom floor, but it's all gone now. Oh, I'm getting this there. Right, time to move. Oh no, character of the week. We've got our character of the week this week. Who could it be?
I want to just say, I score myself 1 out of 5 this week. 1 human iPods out of 5 because I've just been moaning and I apologise.
Oh, I don't mind.
I've been annoying myself a little bit. I'm sorry.
No. Character of the week. It's a hard one, isn't it? Maybe.
That's what Curtis said.
I
literally don't know. I'm going to give it to the Shetland pony that was incinerated and is about to be turned into a diamond.
I'm going to give it to Mr. Middleton.
Yeah.
Just because he made me perk up and watch him.
See, the thing is, you were saying, oh my God, what the hell is going on? But he was like, he gave it his all.
He did give it his all this week, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Mr. Middleton and the incinerated Shetland pony are our characters of the week. Could do better, Coronation Street, but we still love you, really.